Welcome to an all-new episode of the Workshoot Wrestling Podcast. This is Corey Richmond, joined by Jason Brooks. 9 days to WrestleMania. Happy opening day to sports fans' third favorite sport. Of course, number 3, baseball, number 2, football, and number 1, gambling on all of them. Jason, how you doing today? 9 days away from WrestleMania. And to all those, we start Autism Awareness Month. To all those who suffer from that, we acknowledge you and continue the fight for the cure for that and everything else. Jason, welcome to this week's episode.
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm in Asheville, North Carolina on vacation, so trying to sneak an episode in while on vacation, while my wife stares angrily at me. Looking forward to talking wrestling with you. I missed a week last week, but some good shows. NXT Takeover looks like, that's WrestleMania. It looks like an incredible show. AEW's had a really good run of shows. Everybody's moving nights. Wrestling is just, the business side is just really, really crazy. So looking forward to talking about it with you.
Absolutely. And so I don't even know where to start. I guess we can start with, Monday, where the hottest thing on Raw for the last couple of months was the Hurt Business, with the growth of Bobby Lashley and, people being happy once again with, a year and a half ago that they took the title off of Kofi Kingston and you had another strong African-American champion. You had a stable that he was part of, and then out of nowhere, they decide to basically dissolve the stable on Monday out of nowhere. We have the build for the match, which is the co-headlining match for the first night of WrestleMania. But Jay, quickly, we're not going to talk a lot about Monday Night Raw, but what are your thoughts of, most likely one of the high points most weeks of Monday Night Raw, the Hurt Business, basically out of nowhere? It looks like it's dissolved. I don't know if it's part of an angle.
Yeah. So a couple of things. One, Batista kind of, put everybody's thoughts, when he said it on Twitter, and he doesn't even comment on wrestling that much anymore. And he's like, why are they doing this? This is so stupid. Again, this is Raw. There's no stories that make sense.
No rhyme or reason.
No rhyme or reason for anything. There's no long-term storytelling at all with anything. It is just, let's just throw shit out there every week. I feel like the shows feel like, Corey, to you, I don't know if they feel like this to you, like they're just making it up on the fly. They're just making these shows up on the fly. And this build for WrestleMania, this has been the worst build for WrestleMania on the Raw side that I've ever seen. This is the worst built WrestleMania on the Raw side than I've ever seen. It has been absolutely awful. Absolutely terrible. Yeah, and Hurt Business was cool. I thought they did a great job of elevating Cedric Alexander, elevating Shelton Benjamin. And, even if they lose the tag titles, like that's whatever. But to make them just look like total jobbers, maybe they go somewhere with it. I don't know, but I have no faith that they're going to figure it out. Raw's been horrible. It's been absolutely terrible. And so, yeah, this is all I really want to talk about with Raw. You might, if you have more, you can talk about it, but I'm so disgusted with the show, and so disgusted watching it every week, and especially in the lead up to WrestleMania. I'm glad Lash is the champion. I think him and McIntyre will have a really, really good match. But Raw is it's absolutely terrible.
I agree. And, I understand that you want to make, something out of nothing when it comes to, Samoa Joe's not on the show with possibly with COVID, because, you have the, Warwick has other obligations, and you want to have MVP on commentary and building a storyline for the whole entire night with Drew McIntyre. And you want to build things from past week of the fact that
why? First of all, MVP, don't make excuses for them. Samoa Joe, we don't make excuses for them. Baron Corbin is in the Hurt Business, I guess, but then MVP, it's so bad. How bad is it for an angle when you do this angle and then the manager of the stable has to come on Twitter and say Baron Corbin is not in the Hurt Business? Like, how bad of an angle is that? when he has a comment. What's he doing there? Why is Baron Corbin there? Elevate a young guy. Bring someone else in. Have it be, maybe another African-American guy. Maybe have it be Keith Lee. Someone who, I know Keith Lee may have COVID, maybe hurt, I don't know. But Baron Corbin, that's what they're elevating? Come on. Let's move on to the next. I don't want to talk about it. It's just horror. I'm so disgusted. But because they had a good thing. The Hurt Business was like the best thing on Raw, like far and away, other than Drew McIntyre. And they've just ruined it. They've just ruined it. And now MVP says he's seeking more applicants. Don't have any more applicants because you're gonna break them up in 2 months. These stables get together. I'd rather a stable stay too long than end too early. And I don't understand it. I think Hurt Business could have been one of the really great stables they've had the last several years, and they just I mean, a couple of weeks ago, you saw them all with the gold, kind of like the Black Excellence thing, Black History Month. It was amazing. And now they're broken up. All right, come on. Let's talk about something else. I can't with the Hurt Business.
This is the quick hit edition of the Workshoot Wrestling podcast. You can check out.
No, there's so much dope stuff to talk about. There's so much great stuff to talk about. And Raw's so bad. And every week we talk about how bad it is. And they somehow have figured out how to make it worse. Like, I don't know how that happened, but they've somehow figured out how to make the show worse.
No, I don't disagree. I mean, and I guess the only reason when I brought up the Samoa Joe thing was where I think that certain fans, thought maybe the reason he wasn't on commentary, because you still always have, every week you still have these rumors that Joe is clear to come back. And the idea was that you kept on having the idea of who's going to take out Drew McIntyre. And the hope is that, because, you've had Bobby Lashley say that the guy, his dream opponent is Brock Lesnar. And the idea is maybe the guy who takes out, Drew McIntyre is maybe Brock, because, Brock's on the card, or maybe Samoa Joe. And the idea that Joe wasn't on commentary, that you could have had the return of a Joe or Brock Lesnar taking him out. And I guess part of my idea was working into the next topic was, as we see the WrestleMania card coming into its full potential of what it's going to be right now, the key names that aren't on this show, and we knew that John Cena wasn't going to be on the show because of filming of the Peacemaker, and we recently saw that the Red Band trailer of the Suicide Squad came out. I don't know if you had a chance to see it or not, but he actually quite funny in the trailer, and he now has got Wipeout, and everything else. But John Cena's not going to be on the show. Charlotte Flair, which we'll get into a second. As of right now, maybe something might change on the go home, so won't be on the show. Bill Goldberg, which nobody cares about, won't be on the show. Brock Lesnar, Triple H. Some of the mainstays the last couple of years aren't going to be on the show. And I just wonder, do you think that hurts the build for this show, that some of the part-timers, but some of the mainstays of past years,
I think what hurts the show is that the build's been horrible. And the SmackDown side hasn't been on, well, at least for the main event. I've really, really enjoyed what they've done with Bryan and Edge and Reigns. And the difference you could tell with SmackDown, and at least for the title picture, is I feel like it's these guys coming up with some of the stuff on their own with the help of the writers and whatever. Where Raw, I feel like Vince is just telling them what to do and coming up with ideas on the fly, which is why I think it is like it is. Goldberg, thank God he's not on. I think Cena really adds something to WrestleMania. I think he's so good on the mic and things like that. I think him not being there definitely hurts Charlotte, as much as it annoys us that she's always at the main event. I think her not being there is, I think that's a bummer that she's not there. Absolutely.
Factor, I guess you're saying,
Yeah, absolutely. And Brock is a big star. As much as he drives us crazy, he's a big star. So, yeah, I think it hurts. But we've said, how many times have we said, let's elevate some of the other talent, right? And that's what we're doing. We're getting a lot of people on this card who may not have been on this card. So in some ways, I don't think it's a bad thing. I just think the build for the show has been bad on the Raw side, particularly. So I think that's been the problem, not that people haven't been there.
I hear you. And like I said, it is going to be interesting on how this goes. So one of the big things that has come out, and we spoke about this in the past, is the fact that WrestleMania is going to be 2 days, and we didn't have a show last week. And before that, tickets for WrestleMania went on sale. And one of the things that, and from everything we've heard, I think WrestleMania isn't sold out as of yet. But one of the things was people did not know what was going to be on each day of the event. And some people were like, is it fair that tickets are going on sale and you don't know what it is? Apparently people didn't care. If you were going, you bought your tickets, and it seems like a lot
I
of
mean,
people are buying.
you're getting tickets to see WrestleMania.
Yeah,
You're not
but
getting tickets to see like a particular match, no?
I don't know. I mean, are you? But if you're going, but the way that it now is, if it's night one, night two, you didn't know beforehand if you were going to see Roman Reigns. I mean, most people would think Roman Reigns is going to be on the big night of Sunday, but you don't know if you're going to see, Sasha Banks, or depending on who you're a fan of, you didn't know who you were going
Yeah,
to see.
I guess that's true. Like if you pay all that money, you want to see your favorite superstar.
Right.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I get that too.
But what wound up happening? It looks like a lot of people, especially because of COVID restrictions and people not be able to fly into foreign fans, it was going to be a lot of people who were able to drive and different things. But it looks like a lot of people were going to night one, going to night two. But it was funny. Right afterwards, they got there for people to buy their tickets. All of a sudden, you found out who was going to be on each night. So on night one, you're going to basically have a double main event of Lashley, Edge, and Bryant as your on one show, and then on your other show you're gonna have Drew and
Lashley.
Drew
Wait.
and
Hold on.
Lashley.
Night one's gonna be Drew and Lashley,
Sorry,
correct?
Drew
So
and
night one's
Lashley.
gonna be Drew and Lashley, and night two is gonna be the triple threat.
Right. So Drew Lashley night one on the men's side, and on the women's side it's gonna be Sasha and Bianca Belair.
Yeah.
And night two, the other half of the women's side will be Asuka versus Rhea Ripley. Now, do you think that Asuka versus Rhea Ripley is a super strong night two? The fact that she's only been on the main roster for 2 weeks, do you think that really needs, if it can be, adding of a Charlotte Flair, who we always say is thrown into main events, and she's the stalwart, and it's really time for a change. But the fact she's only been there for 2 weeks, you think it's too rushed, or do you think she's a strong enough
Corey,
character
the whole thing has been rushed. You know what they got to do for next year? They cannot have a pay-per-view right before WrestleMania. They can't do it. It's a complete shit show.
Mm-hmm.
They really, if you want to do a 6 weeks out, because I feel like that's what they've done in the past, but I know with Peacock, whatever, I feel like they've done 6 weeks out in the past. They can't do this 3 weeks, 4 weeks before. It's just too rushed. But in terms of, I mean, I think Rhea Ripley, Asuka by itself is a big enough match. Yes. The build has been so crazy that, I mean, Bianca Belair and Sasha's been built for months now. You could say the build has not been amazing, but I think it's gotten better, actually. I think Bianca's promo she had on Friday was tremendous. She's really, really coming into her own. Definitely on the mic. In the ring, she still needs some help, but on the mic, she's really, really good. I don't want to see Charlotte in this match. Why put her in the match? We already read this stuff with Andrade, and we should definitely get into that at some point.
Absolutely.
Where women are super jealous of her, and I don't know, with good reason. Andrade put her over and said only 3 women in the company or 4 women can wrestle a 20-minute match, which I don't know, he might not be wrong about. Rumors of women taking pictures of Charlotte and all this other stuff. But the jealousy thing makes a lot of sense. She gets a lot of freaking opportunities that other women don't get. And so, I don't know. I don't know. I think let's keep her out of this one. It's fine if she takes a little bit of a break.
So let's get in, because I'm not sure what the schedule will be for next week, to be honest. How many shows we will or won't be doing because of the return in baseball and with COVID restrictions with the school system. Not sure how everything will be done with real life. Let's get into a little bit about WrestleMania before we get into the Andrade story and some other stuff with Peacock. night one of WrestleMania as of right now. Like you said, we got Lashley versus Drew. What's your interest level in that match? I mean, Lashley's been built pretty strong, other than, like I said, with her business situation on Monday. Do you think that's now? I guess it's twofold. One, should that main event, usually it's the men's world title match will main event a show, or should it be Bianca versus Sasha Banks, the winner of your Rumble, trying to keep that strong? What do you feel should main event the show?
I know that there's a rumblings to try to have Sasha Bianca be the match. I think I'm okay with Lashley and Drew. You know me, I'm all about female empowerment, and that's the one thing I was thinking is there weren't like any women's matches, but it looks like there's going to be like a multi-women jobber tag team match instead of having the battle royals, which is better. And then whoever wins that, I guess, is going to go against Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax the next night. So I guess that's how they're going to get the women on the show. There's not. I guess the one thing I'm disappointed in is that there's not another woman other than the title matches. Like there's not a blood feud for the women's, on the women's side. It shows you, what they have done or have not done in terms of building the women on the roster. I think Drew and Lashley is fine to main event night one. I think that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree.
And I think it's going to be a hell of a match. I mean, their match, last year in the pay-per-view, I thought it was one of Lashley's best matches on the main since he's come back to WWE. I mean, they beat the shit out of each other. It was great. So I think and that's the thing, right? Like the build has not been good, but I think they're going to have a hell of a match.
I think I'd still like to see Sasha versus Belair main event the show, just to give credibility of the idea that if you win the Rumble, you main event WrestleMania. I still like that idea, but I think that this was I don't disagree with you that getting rid of Fastlane isn't the worst idea in the world, but I think the idea of having that show in between has kind of hurt this feud because it was too long of a time to build this because they ran out of steam of everything going on. So I would do that. But otherwise, you've got the Raw Tag Team title match on night one, which I think will be interesting to see what Amos could do in the ring. I think that should be interesting. I have no interest in the steel cage match between Braun and Shane. I think that's been horrifically bad. I do think it's interesting that Bad Bunny versus The Miz has not been a tag team match. Not that.
Yeah, I'm surprised about that today. He must really be working in the Performance Center. He's been there a lot. As we know, obviously they're not doing concerts. These guys can't do concerts or anything. So I think he's spending a lot of his time in the Performance Center getting himself ready for the match. So, but man, to not protect him with a tag team match.
But I think the bigger thing is I'm surprised that they're not going to give the rub to Damian Priest to be on the big stage. I mean, he seems like
but I think he comes out with them, he's going to be involved, and he'll be involved. I mean, he'll be involved. But yeah, I'm surprised he's not. I'm surprised he's not in the match too. But to me, it'd be more about protecting Bad Bunny. I mean, if Damian Priest and Bad Bunny win a tag team match at WrestleMania, I don't know that gives Damian Priest that much of a rub. But surprised he's not in the match. I agree.
And I guess quickly, what's your thoughts on Almas finally wrestling? Do you think?
I don't know. You talk about someone who's going to be protected. I think they'll do very little with him. I think that it's interesting they have a legit really big guy. I don't know. I don't know what to make of the match. I think the build's been fine. Nothing crazy. Again, a very rushed type of thing. But I'm interested to see how he is in the ring. It's not a match where I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to see it. There's very few matches on the WrestleMania, unfortunately, that I feel that way about. I'd say probably a handful or less than a handful. But I think it could be interesting. And we'll see how he is in the ring.
And the other two matches on night one, Cesaro versus Seth Rollins. It's a shame that Nakamura basically they had a very fun match at the pay-per-view with him and Seth, but
They have good chemistry in the ring. They've had good matches. They've been wrestled on SmackDown a bunch.
Yeah, it's kind of just a shame that the fact that it's just a stepping stone to the bigger match, and I wonder with Nakamura if he'll have any presence at WrestleMania. So
Yeah.
I do think this could be Cesaro's big moment finally, besides, winning the Andre, the first Andre Battle Royal. I think they'll have a really good match. I think the feud's been a little bit rushed just based on time constraints. We'll see how that goes. And then you've got the rumored former guest on the show, Mike Johnson, has reported there'll be a number one contenders match for the women's title, tag team titles, the Dana Brooks of the world, and
the jobbers.
So, we'll see how that goes. Night 2, you've got the big match, Roman Reigns, Edge, and Daniel Bryant, which I think has been interesting. The fact that this was initially on the books for quite a long time. It was going to be a one-on-one match, and then I guess one day Vince said, "You know what? Let's make this a triple threat."
I don't know if sometimes some of these things I don't know if it's Vince. I don't know if Vince watches SmackDown, to be honest with you. I really don't. I don't know if he goes to the shows. I don't know if he pay. I really feel like a lot of this is these guys coming up with these ideas on their own, and then they bring it to Vince, and he's like, "All right." You know what I mean? I mean, he knows everything that's going on, but I don't know if he's the one running the show on SmackDown.
Well, I do know that, recently, and it has been reported, the fact that his brother did die, I guess, about a month ago, and he has been, dealing with some family issues with.
Well, he died longer than a month ago.
Month
I just don't think he's going to SmackDown as much. I mean, I think he's 70-something years old. I don't think I think he's just not going to SmackDown as much as he was in the past, which is, is what it is. So, but anyway, yeah, I'm glad Bryan's in the match. I think it adds something. Edge with the heel turn, I think is interesting how they did that. Edge talked about it this week where he said, without the fans in attendance, we're not sure where things are. And we know WWE's done a lot of that stuff with the fans, and that's how they do their that's how they go with their storylines. But it's interesting. NXT they haven't had fans, and they seem to be doing just fine. AEW doesn't have that many fans in the stands, and they seem to be doing just fine. So the Edge heel turn I thought was interesting. And I think that could be, I don't know where they go there, because if Edge is, I guess Edge could be on Raw and maybe challenge, I don't know where they go with Edge from here. And I guess we'll talk about, the matches and who's going to win, I guess, next week. But yeah, I think that's been by far the best built match on WrestleMania. I think it'd be like they'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then 6 would be whatever, Bianca Belair and Sasha. So yeah, that's the match I'm definitely most intrigued by. And yeah, we'll see what happens there.
Well, I do think that's an interesting thing you just brought up, and I think that's kind of the reason why they might have broken up the Hurt business and did this whole type thing with Baron Corbin, where with the whole type thing with the Black Excellence and the idea of Bobby Lashley, getting over social media and everything, where they're not sure with the live crowd if Bobby Lashley or Roman Reigns are going to get cheered now, or an Edge, or all these things where you don't, with having the idea where you can go and have cheer or not cheer with the virtual crowd, you might have gone and been able to go. You don't know what the fans are, who they're going to boo and cheer. So by bringing like a Baron Corbin on, you're going to get that go away heat for Bobby Lashley or all these other things. So I think it's going to be a really interesting wake up call to the company on what does or doesn't happen.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think there's a lot of different things, a lot of different ways they can go. And are the fans just going to cheer everything because they're excited to be back? Or are they going to let the audience know? And also, how much are we going to put into, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, how much are we going to put into, one night of fans, right? Because it sounds like they're going to go back. They're going to do the Thunderdome somewhere else. Obviously, Tampa Bay is coming back to play. So, and wherever they're doing the Thunderdome at, it's going to be the same thing with no fans. So we're going to have this probably, I would suspect we'll have the Thunderdome shows until the summer, when they're saying there's a chance 75% of people could be vaccinated or it'll be made available. And I think that's when maybe we'll have fans, but I think it's going to be maybe by SummerSlam. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Quickly, we've already mentioned Oscar versus Rhea Ripley, Intercontinental title match, Big E versus Apollo Crews. I don't know how many times Apollo Crews can lose, but keep on getting title shots. Riddle versus Sheamus. Riddle's just I don't get Riddle at this point. I mean, whatever. WWE Women's Title Tag Team Title match rumored once again. Mike Johnson, the winner of the Jobber tag team match, facing Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn. I think that could be a match that steals the show. If you watch any of their old ROH matches or just matches in general from NXT or just, anywhere, that could be one of the best matches on the show. The Fiend versus Randy Orton. Oh, please help me. Like you said, there's on paper this should be good, but none of these matches truly stand out on paper, So I mean,
this doesn't feel like. I guess the thing is, and this is why, like, and we're going to talk about this more next week, but this certainly doesn't feel like WrestleMania. Doesn't feel like WrestleMania, and it's not just because the fans aren't there. It just doesn't feel like it feels. You know what I mean? And I think part of this is they've had all these shows, they've had 2 pay-per-views, whatever. This hasn't been the Miz was the champion. They didn't know what they were doing there. I think the issue has been that singular focus. Like, this should be about WrestleMania always, not just when they point up to the sign. I just don't feel like they've highlighted this being WrestleMania season as much. They've talked about the network. They've talked about Peacock. They've talked about Elimination Chamber. They've talked about Fastlane. But I just don't think they've talked enough about WrestleMania. And they've not made it a singular focus. I feel like the focus has been particularly on Raw, it's been all over the place. And so I think, so for me, it doesn't totally feel like WrestleMania for me. But it is WrestleMania. So and we'll do a much deeper dive next week, and talk about it then.
So let's see. So you brought up that mystical word Peacock. Let's talk a little bit about Peacock before we get into NXT. So this past week, Peacock did become a reality. Fastlane was the first big show. I still have the WWE Network for, I guess, another day or so. You very smartly canceled the first chance you had. You get
10:01 p.m.
You very smartly canceled. I guess first we'll just start with what was the experience of watching show? I know you watch, a lot of soccer on Peacock to begin with, but what was the experience of watching a show on Peacock? What's the experience like? I've heard that, you can't, rewind a live show.
Yeah, it was clunky. Yeah, you couldn't. Yeah, I'm trying to remember because I started it late, and I struggled figuring out how to rewind it, or how to go back and start it from the beginning. It was very clunky. I think I waited till the show was over to rewatch it because I didn't want to watch it live and have stuff ruined for me. Or I take that back. I just watched it live and hoped that nothing would be ruined for me, because I couldn't figure out how to start it from the beginning. So you couldn't start it from the beginning. Maybe they fixed that. I've watched Talking Smack on there. It's been fine. I have the non-premium one, so I get the commercials or whatever. Talking Smack's been really, really good, by the way. So it's been a little clunky. So they're working the kinks out. But I guess that means you got to start watching WrestleMania live, or else you're gonna not, or else you're gonna miss it. So I don't know. I don't love it so far at all, but it's free, so I guess I can't super complain about. Yeah, free. Yeah, and I mean even so, if you do they have a deal where it's half off, or you get it for $250, so it's still super cheap no matter what. You're still saving money on the network no matter what. So for now, it's fine, and we'll see if they can work out the kinks.
So I guess my only question before we get into the other big thing with Peacock is, when they said there were commercials, were there actually any commercials during pay-per-view, or what was that like?
I don't remember. Talking Smack, which I watched recently, does after every segment they have a commercial.
So it's like a 30-second just.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that doesn't sound too terrible.
No, it's fine. It's not a big deal. We're just so used to not watching commercials anymore that I guess that's the only thing. I'm like, oh, there's a commercial. I'm not used to these anymore.
And
So,
it'll be interesting
but
how that works during,
not a
Takeover or WrestleMania or anything
yeah.
else.
And the thing is with these pay-per-views, right? If they're live pay-per-views, they basically do pay-per-views on them anyway, or do commercials on them anyway, because they always have like, talking about the next show or the next thing or whatever. So, I mean, yeah, I don't think it's a big deal. That part I don't think is a big deal. Minor annoyance, but not a big deal.
So, all right, and I will experience that in a couple of days once WWE Network officially goes away in the U.S.
Oh, I did. Yeah. And I did watch one thing on there. I watched an old WCW 2000 where the main event was Scott Steiner and Booker T. It was a terrible show. But yeah, if you fast forwarded tried to fast forward a match. So it doesn't really have markers, but it basically has like kind of markers. But once you fast forward to that part, there's a commercial. So like every match, there's a commercial for the old shows. So
it's almost like early YouTube then, where
yeah, kind of. Yeah, kind of.
ad blockers. So basically, you don't have an ad blocker on your on it.
Kind of.
Okay. All right, it'll be an interesting experience. We'll talk about more, I guess, once we both have it, next week.
Yeah.
But the other big thing when it came to Peacock was that people found out that when you go to a big conglomerate like Peacock, NBC, they're going to go and edit out material they don't feel deemable to the masses, which, right or wrong, we'll have a little bit of discussion here about it, was the fact that they removed some content. And it's come up, right or wrong, we'll have a little discussion here on the fact you're paying for a product either through your cable system or via, just paying for it, your $9.99 or $4.99. If you're paying for something, should you actually get a full product, or does the company have the right to go and just take away what they don't feel deemable? People like, the Disney Plus, or, if you just watch something on TV now, like on HBO Max, like, Gone with the Wind, they'll put up a disclaimer saying that this was made at a time where, things were wrong and our culture has changed. They'll put up a disclaimer. But they'll keep the product as it was. WWE or Peacock has decided that the material was either racist or sexist or different things, and they're not putting up. They may put up a disclaimer, which I haven't seen yet. Jacob maybe talk about that more, but they just decided to get rid of it because it was one of the things is the Piper versus Bad News Brown, I believe, match from WrestleMania 6. So Jay, I guess we'll start it off. Your feelings on the idea of them basically getting rid of material that they deem isn't appropriate, and how far, you think they should go, or, even the idea of what I just said of, keeping it or putting it behind a different sector, of keeping the material as is, but letting people know that the material was inappropriate, like a Disney Plus or an HBO Max has done. You're paying for this stuff. It's your material.
Yeah. But now yeah. So I have a lot of thoughts on this. One, Gone with the Wind is different, right? Like the whatever, I haven't watched the movie in forever. So I'm the woman's like the maid, right? The black woman's the maid. Like they can't edit her out. She's in there. She's in the fucking movie. You can't edit her out of the movie unless you don't put the movie on the air. Here's the issue, right? And I'm just gonna get into it. This is what we do.
Open forum, absolutely.
This is what we do. We do things like, oh, this was racist, but like, I don't know, it's free speech, or it's whatever. I pay my money. I should get all the racism I want on TV. Like, no, absolutely not. Now, we could talk about censorship and the fact that how far will they go? I think that isn't definitely an argument to be made on how far they will go. Will they edit matches out that are too violent? Will they edit out angles that are too risque? So that is a conversation. But the things they've edited out are good. I mean, a white person doing a blackface is incredibly racist, incredibly harmful. And that's something that should be edited out 100%. It's something that should have never been on there, to be quite frank. And we've talked about the history of wrestling and how racist it is. And it shouldn't be like, oh, well, we're editing out and I'm fine to watch this and there's a disclaimer. No, it shouldn't be on the fucking channel. It shouldn't be on the network. Absolutely not. And to say, well, I'm paying my money for this. Yeah, you're paying your money to get the pay-per-views and to get those things. Those things should not have been on the air to begin with. That's the problem. And so for me, for them to edit something like that. So if I have a kid one day and my kid is watching old network and they're like, why is this white person in blackface? I shouldn't have to fucking explain that to them because it shouldn't be a thing. So no, I think it's good that they edited it out. Now, again, the conversation of if they edit out everything, how's that all going to go? If they edit sex stuff out, because, you know, and stuff like that, I think that's an interesting conversation to have. But the stuff they've edited out thus far that we know of, the Roddy Piper thing, the DX thing when they were dressed up as Nation of Domination, all in blackface, I think that stuff should absolutely be edited out. I feel like WWE should have never run it in the first place. So to me, that's not a problem.
I see your point on that. I mean, I guess my only counter to that would be twofold. One, I do wonder if the WWE knew that this was going to happen in the first place. That
why would they care though about like certain, like who cares about that? They gave them like $5 billion. Like I don't think they give a shit what they edit. They can do whatever you want. I don't think they care. But anyway, go ahead.
Oh no, I don't. I'm just wondering to see if the fact of that you wonder on the idea of what the WWE knew or didn't know beforehand and then the idea of that for people who I just wonder how far this goes. Yeah. And I have no problem of them getting rid of certain things, like the idea of, and like what you said, the idea of, Vince McMahon in a backstage segment, with John Cena saying the N-word should have never happened in the first place.
Yes.
And the idea that it ever passed, and 95 of that stuff is pre-taped, and the idea that Vince McMahon has a 10-year-old sense of humor on hearing fart jokes or someone thinking that inappropriately someone saying the N-word, and the shock factor of seeing someone's facial reaction is funny, should have never made the air in the first place, or all of these different things. But I just think it's a slippery slope of how things go, of what percentage of the stuff that happened in the Attitude Era will be taken out because of what we think is politically correct or should still be, still go on now. Because a lot of the stuff that DX did, their skits and stuff, yes, a lot of that stuff, based on how the treatment of women and what we consider proper and right now would never have passed, and the treatment of minorities and different, social groups. And like some of the jokes that they said about transgender and all the different things, if you look back, majority of the Attitude Era would have never made the censorship now. And, are you going to get rid of all that stuff? And where does it go? Like I said, when it comes to racist actions, blackface, sure, get rid of it. But, you just wonder where.
I guess, Corey, the thing is, like, what do you get the network for? You're getting the network mostly to watch great matches for very interesting and good storylines. Like, that's why people watch that's why people watch the network. I don't know. I don't go back and watch old DX skits when they're being stupid. And again, that's whatever, right? I'll watch old CM Punk matches, old Four Horsemen stuff with Ric Flair. And like every fan is different. I get that. But to me, if they're getting rid of overly sexist and racist stuff, I don't know, like who cares?
But
and again, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Hold on.
Like majority of the stuff that aired during the Attitude Era.
Hold on. Well, one, that's not the majority of stuff. The biggest angle in the Attitude Era was Stone Cold against Vince McMahon. That's the biggest angle, right? The DX Nation domination stuff, then I don't think they're going to get rid of any of their matches. I don't think they're going to get rid of, like, one guy's mad at another guy, but the skits and stuff, if they get rid of that, good. They shouldn't have had it in the first place. So I understand the censorship thing, but again, we're talking about people of color. We're talking about women. Nowhere here does it say anything about white men. And that's what it is, right? Who's arguing for this? Who's arguing censorship and my right to speak and blah, blah, blah. Again, we're talking about the 1% of the 1%, right? We're talking about, and not to get this totally off topic, but that's who is upset about stuff like this. That's who gets upset about stuff like this, white men, because you know what? They're not going through any of this. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, but I'm not saying all white men, but I'm saying that's a lot of who are upset by this stuff.
And I guess
I think like who, I don't, I mean, we could do a poll about black men being upset about them taking blackface off, but I'm pretty sure most black people would be like, good. Who wants to see that?
I hear you.
But hold on. But I'm gonna say this: the idea that it's a slippery slope, I agree with, for sure, 100%. It's what do they choose to get rid of, and what do they choose to keep? I don't think they're gonna get rid of. Do they keep the African Dream? Do they just every match he's in, they just don't have on? I don't know. I think that is interesting, but in terms of them, what they've gotten rid of so far, from what we know, I think is very good. I think it's very good.
Just quickly before we move on, in the Wrestling Life group, our social media expert from the You Don't Know Jackie podcast, Jackie Endy, just wrote, and I'd love to get your point of view before we move on, is a disclaimer enough?
No.
Like I said,
no.
Disney Plus and HBO Max.
No.
A lot of things just do.
I think if it's a match, maybe you can do a disclaimer. Like if it's a match that's too violent or there's blood all over the place for kids. If there's if there's a match, because to me, right, wrestling leads to matches. Like the whole point of all these angles is to lead to a match. And I think those are the iconic things that we think about. And sometimes we think about angles too, but mostly matches. I don't think a disclaimer is enough. I'm watching Raw and then, hey, bing, 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 this is going to be super racist, blah, blah, blah. Don't watch it. I don't think that's enough. And I don't think it's enough. I don't think it's enough.
Yeah, like I said, we will file this. And like I said, I'll be getting.
Especially because here's why too. Mm-hmm. If you are a young person watching this, so, you can have edit controls on stuff like that. But I think most of the WWE Network, they've probably edited a lot of stuff out anyway. I don't know if it's PG or I don't know what level of stuff that they have on there. But if you're a kid watching this, you may not know about the disclaimer, or you might just be watching stuff, So I don't know. I don't think the disclaimer is enough personally. But I get the idea of people saying that the disclaimer should be there. And I totally understand that, but I just don't agree with it.
We like I said, we will look at this as things goes on. Not the WWE Network. It will no longer be existing. I'll have Peacock in the next day or so I'll be able to watch, NXT Stand and Deliver, which you'll be able to watch night 1 on both USA Network and Peacock in the next couple of days. And we'll get back to you on what is and is not on the network. And we'll see how much of the ECW shows will be edited, because, when they were on the network, those were a little bloody and a little raw at times. So we will see.
I do wonder what was edited on the network in general before. They just put everything on there. I thought they would put everything on there, but anyway.
We will see. But moving on, our favorite night of the week. We're not going to talk a lot about AEW this week because it is a WWE countdown to WrestleMania week kind of thing. So the big news, it finally became official. NXT starting on the 13th. Will be moving to Tuesdays, so another night to officially watch wrestling. Fortunately, NWA Power is behind a paywall on Fight TV. So sorry, Chris Adonis. Congratulations on winning a title, but won't be watching or talking about that. So Jay, it's official. Tuesday nights. We won't be watching, on Twitch. The oh god, I forgot what the name of the company.
Impact. Yeah, Impact. I think that's the crappy thing, because Impact is still. Yeah, Impact's gonna be on Thursdays, right? Yeah. So I guess whatever. Right? We'll do every day of the week. There's wrestling. It's incredible. So yeah, Impact will be on Thursday, so good for them. I think it's good that NXT moved to Tuesdays. I love the idea of the Wednesday Night Wars or whatever, but I just want to see good wrestling. So I think it's great that it's on. I think now because I was excited. I was always looked forward to Impact. So now I'll just look forward to NXT and then Impact on Thursdays. And, but now, baseball's back. So it's going to be viewing all this stuff's going to be, I'm going to need, Corey's usually my edit guy. So Corey will tell me what stuff to watch. So especially with New Japan, like it's going to be, and people are going crazy about this belt, Corey. Oh my God. It's like, I think the belt's fine. It reminds me of the
Divas
It
title?
reminds me a little bit of, well, it looks a little like the Divas title. Some people have pointed that out. I get that, but it also reminds me of, in a good way, of the old Hulk Hogan Macho Man WWF title. It's like, it's kind of like a wing belt. Yeah, look at the old belt. It was it was more of a circle, but it still had like the wing there. I think the belt's. Man, people are getting up in arms about a freaking belt, man. New Japan fans got to calm down. I'm more mad about Great O'Connor being pushed because he sucks. Like, I don't care about his stupid belt.
I hear you. Overtime.
And I'm also annoyed about the IC belt because I thought that was a great title, but whatever.
I still think the best thing, and we'll move on right now. I think the best thing that came out of that was people making the Cody Rhodes tattoo on his neck into a title. I thought that was
you find that stuff funny. I don't find that stuff funny.
I know you have no sense.
Yes,
whatever.
Yes.
But let's quickly. Night one of Stand and Deliver will be, like I said.
Now this is the show, Corey. This is what we should have started with, talking about stupid Hurt Business and this jobber women's multi-women match, and this is WrestleMania. This is the big show.
Oh boy.
I'm fired up. I also had this coffee from this coffee shop across the street. It's great, but there's like 4 shots of espresso, so I'm completely fired up now that it's hitting my system. All right, go ahead.
All right. So night one will be Io Shirai versus Raquel Gonzalez for the NXT Women's title, which if you watched last night's show, it is basically the monster of the women's division going against Io Shirai, who will not die.
Can you talk about a story? Man, I noted this on Twitter at Work Shoot Pod. I did tweet Triple H, all right, and I said, please, can you have Vince watch these shows so he can learn how to do stories again? He's done good stories in the past. That's how he built this billion-dollar company, but he's like forgotten how to do long-term storytelling. And even short-term storytelling in a good way. I mean, the Io thing was so great. How she's like, she can't get her. She's trying to beat her up. Raquel's too strong. Io challenged her because she knows she's the strongest and she's the best right now. I think that story's been so simple yet so fantastic. I love everything about it. I think Raquel Gonzalez absolutely wins the title.
That is very interesting because the way that they built this, it was until the very last image. The way that WWE usually builds storylines is whoever at the end of the night.
I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that stuff anymore.
A lot of times,
I think the stuff that we see now and how wrestling is, I don't necessarily believe. I don't believe in that stuff anymore. And Io did, and you could say the Io did finish on top.
Right, that's what I was gonna say. The fact that the whole entire night Raquel got the best of her, but at the end of the night, Io was on top. So I do agree with you. I think Raquel will win this, but it's the scariest thing. I was listening to a couple other things earlier in the day, and the fear part is whoever loses this match might be going up to the main roster, and that may be the big loser of this because you're scared on who they're gonna mess up by going to Raw or SmackDown.
Yeah, I mean, at least they'll be making money. So
yeah,
I mean, that at least they'll be making money. So you'll get a bigger paycheck and absolutely worse booking. So
yeah, who's gonna get stuck? Having to go and try to make Nia look good.
Yeah, I mean, because they really, this is all stuff we've heard about how they haven't known how to use Asuka for years, but I know they really seem to like Raquel Gonzalez. And I think the only reason why she might be okay is because she's big. And, that might be the only and if they build her up as just a big monster, like in NXT, then she might be okay. But they probably won't.
And friend of the pod, Alex Mercado said very nicely, Io versus Asuka, dream match of the century. That would be really cool. But Vince booking two Asian women fighting each other, I don't have a lot of hope.
You know what they're gonna do? A couple weeks from now, it's just gonna be a regular match on Raw.
Yeah, I know. Exactly.
No build. It's just gonna be, oh yeah, now we're gonna have these women. They were great in Japan, right? Now just have them wrestle at 9:15 on Monday.
Exactly. We've got Walter versus Ciampa for the
another really interesting build. I thought Ciampa had one of his best promos he's had in I don't know, Corey, a long time. And talking about who he's fighting for. It was a great baby face. It reminded me of like a Moxley kind of baby face promo. What I think a modern day baby face promo should be now. And I thought it was great. I don't think he wins the match. I think Walter still wins.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But I love, again, a simple story. Ciampa, you're not who you used to be. You're older. You're broken down. You have other priorities. Your priority isn't being the best in the ring anymore. I'm the best in the ring, and that's why I'm going to win. A simple storytelling. And I do think Walter wins. But I would like to see Ciampa win. I think it'd be really, really interesting for him to do. You know, I don't know. I don't think he can go to Europe though. I think that's the one problem, right? I don't know if he can go over there, but I would love for him to win the title and be in NXT UK for a couple of months.
I think that's the biggest thing. I don't think twofold. I just think they still want to build Walter as the unbeatable champion, and I don't think they're gonna have Ciampa go over to Europe. Three-way for the vacated titles. I just don't. I think you have the Grizzled Young Veterans win. MSK and Phantasma's group are in this. I think the idea of MSK winning in a one-on-one match is the story there, and I think Grizzled Young Veterans deserve it. I would go with them. If you have a,
I agree. I think they win. I would like to see Legado del Fantasma win, just because I think, and we'll talk about what's going to happen here with Santos Escobar. You know, I don't know if he's going to be keeping his title. So, but yeah, I think it's going to be another great match. I think Danny Burch and Oni Lorcan were going to lose this match. Whether I don't know what they were going to do, a 4-way or 3-way or whatever they were going to do, but I think they were going to lose this match anyway. But I agree. I think GYV wins it.
I agree. And a match that I don't know anybody knew that they wanted, but I am super excited for. It came out of nowhere. Pete Dunne versus Kushida. This could be the best show of the 2 days. And like I said, before finding out about it, I never knew I wanted it until I found out about it. This could be the best match of WrestleMania.
Again, so simple, Corey, the week before. And I thought about it. I'm like, they both said they were the best technical wrestler in the world. That's interesting. Just planting those little seeds, right? And that's what's great about wrestling. That's why editing stuff out and the blackface and it's like, you don't need all these crazy stories. Sometimes very simple stories are the best ways. And I love, what they did with those two. And I mean, that match is going to be now my only issue with it being on USA and then second night being on Peacock is whether it's going to be commercial free, because the commercials always kind of annoy me. So, and I think it takes away from the show a little bit. So I hope the commercials are limited. That's the only thing that I am concerned about.
That could be very interesting. And not to go on a tangent here because we're running a little low on time, but I do wonder, will the Peacock version of the show, will the people watching on Peacock, will they see a longer versions of these matches? Will there not be commercials during when USA goes to commercial? Will they still be seeing the match, or will they get commercials as well? I think that will be very interesting.
And then the idea too, can we talk about a rating? Because if it's going to be on Peacock and the USA Network, if you can watch Peacock with no commercials, you'd rather watch Peacock with no commercials, right? So I don't know, be interesting.
Yeah, that will be. And then we have the 6-way gauntlet match for a shot to lose at the following night to Gargano, hopefully. Leon Rush, Isaiah Swerve Scott, Bronson Reed, Cameron Grimes, Dexter Loomis, and LA Knight, worst name in the business right now. I'd love to see Swerve Scott win. I don't think he will. You have an idea?
Yeah, I think Bronson Reed wins, and I think he might win the title the next night. They've been pushing him so hard lately. Maybe he doesn't win the title, but I absolutely think he's the one who wins the match. 100%. He's in a good enough spot where you don't want the baby face to be the last guy. It doesn't make him look good. And maybe to not have him start off. So it'd be good to have him in there third. I think it's a good spot for him. I think if there was a lock, and I feel like for this whole show, I feel like the lock is for him to win this match.
It could be. I guess the only thing I would say is that I think based on momentum, I think Cameron if it wasn't heel versus heel, I just think like gimmick and stuff, I think Cameron Grimes might be the most over of the people in the match, but then you have heel versus heel. So
yeah, they have heel versus heel. I've read his, and I think Grimes is doing his own thing. I think Grimes is doing something different now. I don't think Grimes's thing is going for a title right now. I think Grimes's thing is like, kind of building his character up a little bit.
Yeah, I wonder.
Which I think he's done well. I think it's been really good. I think he's been very entertaining.
And I wonder maybe if we get a surprise on this show or in the next couple of weeks of a Ted DiBiase and Cameron Grimes, like little interaction, because he's playing the Ted DiBiase character. I think that might be a little bit of fun maybe down the road. But before we move on to night 2 quickly, I do wonder, and I did put this on the Wrestling Life group. The main event for night 1 is Io Shirai versus Raquel Gonzalez. Going up against that match on AEW next week will be a bona fide dream match for some, maybe not for Jay. I'll get his opinion quickly here. It will be the Good Brothers and Kenny Omega versus the Young Bucks and Jon Moxley. I know that 9 out of 10 weeks AEW wins the ratings anyway, but if you're the average fan, I'm not saying the supermarks like us, but the average fan's
going to watch AEW.
Are they? So do you think that's a smart? So I guess the question is that a smart move on
yeah, Corey, we can't do this thing where we're like, we can't show this because of this. That's the main event. And you know what? We're going to have our fucking main event. We've been pushing Io forever. Raquel Gonzalez, we've been pushing her forever. We're going to put our shit out there. And
I'm not saying
NXT
should have not, put this as the main event. I'm saying it's AEW. Is this a smart move by AEW?
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. I think AEW is rushing this. Although I think we could absolutely see a turn. I think we could see a heel turn here by the Young Bucks. I think they've been kind of teasing that anyway. So, although I don't really like it. I like them as the baby faces, but it would kind of make sense because they're building up Pac and Phoenix as the man. Phoenix is he's so spectacular. And I love Ethan Page is my favorite line of the week. Was an interview I read with Ethan Page where they asked him who he wanted to wrestle, and he said, "Every time I watch Ray Phoenix wrestle, I want to burn my boots and retire because of how good he is." He's like, he is so good, man. So yeah, I think Phoenix and Pac are definitely going to win the tag titles. I think they realize what they have in Phoenix, and now they're having him speak English more, which I feel like he could speak English the whole time. So anyway, so it would make sense for Pac and Phoenix, their baby faces, to win the titles. I think they're rushing it. I think they're rushing it. Maybe this is the plan they had all along, or they knew this was going to be Takeover, so this is the plan. I don't know. I don't love it. I really don't. But it is what it is. It is what I mean. This is like a pay-per-view match. So we'll see. But ratings-wise, yeah, I think they're gonna do really, really well because AEW was started because of the Young Bucks and Omega. So I mean.
Yeah, it will be interesting. I mean, there was a couple other good things on AEW. We'll get to one more of them in a few moments. But night 2 of Stand and Deliver, we'll quickly go over this, and we do apologize running a little long here. Finn Balor versus Karrion Kross. I thought that the Karrion Kross promo patch I thought was well done, showing him being a badass more than just being a promo, just being an intro, showing his his MMA background. I thought that was well done.
I agree.
I would keep the title on Finn Balor because I think he's just a better performer, and I think long term he'll have better matches. But I think the plan has always been to have the badass, unbeatable guy as your champion.
Absolutely.
So I think Kross gets the title back.
Absolutely.
Leading to a rematch of him versus the for the first time I guess on NXT, the Demon character. I could see that happening.
Yeah, maybe.
I think it should.
But I think Karrion Kross definitely wins.
I think this is a match you're mostly looking forward to more than most. Well, not more than most people, but more than most matches on the show. Santos Escobar versus Jordan Devlin in a ladder match. I think this could steal night 2.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think this is, I know that things have changed a lot over the years, but still one of my favorite ladder matches of all time. WrestleMania 10, I believe it was. Shawn versus Razor.
I mean, my favorite, maybe my favorite ladder match of all time. And I know, we know what happened. He's a horrible person, all the other stuff. But Benoit and Jericho at Royal Rumble years ago was just a spectacular. Luke Harper, Ziggler. I think that was a ladder. I think that was a ladder match. That was a great match too. So yeah, there's been some great ladder matches in the past, and I think, and I love the Money in the Bank spot fest matches, but I really love a one-on-one ladder match because they really have to be innovative and think of how they want to do things. And there's no, you go through a ladder and you could sit on the sideline for 5 minutes. Like, you got to really work your ass off. And usually there's a good build to actually getting the ladder. So and these guys are both absolutely spectacular wrestlers. So I think it could be a really, really fun match. And again, I loved when Shawn Michaels came out. He just took the ladder, put it in the ring, and that was it, So I'm very excited about that as well.
So, I mean, I think Escobar keeps the title.
I think Devlin wins, and then Escobar moves to heavyweight.
So you think Jordan Devlin's staying on American soil and going to be here for the long run? I mean, because it feels like I know I watch most likely more, and I don't watch very much of it, more of NXT UK than you do most weeks. But I feel like from what I've seen, Devlin is more of a mainstay on that show. I know it's most likely because.
Well, of course, he's freaking from Mile. I mean, that he's in NXT UK. That has nothing to do with it.
I just don't know
obviously. But the Grizzled Young Veterans, you just said Grizzled Young Veterans are going to win the tag titles.
Yeah, but they've been
hold on. And Grizzled Young Veterans were NXT UK mainstays for a long time. There's a very good chance that Devlin or Walter are just going to stay here for a little bit and use NXT for a while. He can stay here for 6 months. Part of this too is with NXT UK is they have a lot of young talent from the UK going through the pipeline too. So they don't need Devlin and Walter there every week. Walter, I think, would be a bigger hit, obviously, because he's the champion of the brand. But Devlin can be in NXT why couldn't he be in NXT for 6 months? Why not? Grizzled Young Veterans are there. Why couldn't he be? So I don't think he has kids or married or anything. So why wouldn't he be? So yeah, I think Devlin wins. I think Escobar moves up to heavyweight.
I can see that. I mean, I think either guy winning is not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Johnny Gargano versus the winner of this gauntlet match, which I would keep the title on Gargano no matter who wins the match. I think the best match up for him is most likely Swerve Scott, but I think it's 2 heels. So you're most likely right with Bronson Reed, just anybody but Dexter Lumis, because I just can't stand Dexter Lumis.
Yeah, I think it's Bronson Reed. I'm gonna go with a title change. Well, let's see. We got if the NXT title change, maybe the women's will say. I'm gonna say that Bronson Reed wins the title. Although, yeah, I'm gonna say Bronson Reed wins the title. Why not?
All right. Ember and Shotzi defend the titles against Candice and Indy Hartwell for the NXT Women's Tag Team titles that didn't need to have been made in the first place if they knew how to book. We got
to keep Nia strong.
Exactly. I think Ember and Shotzi keep the titles. I'd love to see Candice finally get a title anywhere in WWE, but I just don't. I think that having 3 title changes in basically a month and a half, I just think is a little too much.
I agree.
And on any other show, it would be the main event of any show in the damn world right now. O'Reilly versus Fish. Future Shock exploding for the 14th time.
O'Reilly versus Cole.
Oh, did I say O'Reilly versus Fish? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you did. Fish is on the sidelines currently, yeah.
Yes, O'Reilly versus Cole, an unsanctioned match. They had a great promo package leading to this, showing the history, like you said, on Twitter at WorkShootPod, which you should follow as much as possible. Jay letting Triple H know the great job and how Vince should actually, maybe pay attention occasionally. You going out and just seeing anything from this past week besides one other thing I'll mention at the end of the show. This was a great promo package leading to this match. I would have Kyle O'Reilly win this. with the intent of Cole, Cole going to the main roster, but that'd be the worst thing for his career because he's not 6'3". But I don't know who wins this match. Whoever wins this match, the fans win. I know it's a corny way of saying it, but
Yeah,
I've had O'Reilly win, but I don't know who wins.
Man, Corey, you are 100% correct. The idea of my computer just like completely went there. Sorry about that. My computer just like messed up. Yeah, no, I think this would be the exact time for Cole to go to the main roster. This, you have O'Reilly win. You have O'Reilly now as a main event level guy. He can go against Karrion Kross. He could go against Balor. He could go against Walter for the UK title. He could do a bunch of different things, right? And then you have Cole go to the main roster, but there's just no way. He's just too small. There's no way Vince would push him. There's no way. Maybe if he goes to SmackDown, there's a chance they would do something with him. But Daniel Bryan is like the same size as him. It's just such a shame because of how good he is. But I think O'Reilly absolutely wins the match, 100%. And it's been such a well-built feud too.
Yeah. I mean, I think top to bottom, I don't know. And we say this all the time that, the next show is the best show that they could possibly put on in the history of NXT Takeover. But you know what? This could be the best show in the history of NXT. And it's a great way to start off the Peacock era, I mean.
Yeah, well, the Peacock era started off with Fastlane, but I don't see.
Show that people actually will watch.
I mean, people watch Fastlane more than NXT. I think, and we've talked about this before, and you're like, oh, I don't know. AEW they just at this point can't have a show like this. They can't have a show like this. They will. I don't see them ever having a pay-per-view this quality for a while, until maybe some of the older guys they have, the Hardys and the Jerichos, kind of retire, and they don't feel the need to put them on every show. Yeah, I mean, Revolution was a solid pay-per-view. That was good. They can't compete with something like this. This is better than Wrestle Kingdom. I mean, this is such a stacked show. It's just incredible.
Totally agree. So Jay, before we we'll talk about it very quickly before we get to our last topic here. Just wanted to give a little bit of praise. I don't know what you thought of it. I thought on AEW, I thought that Miro and Kip Sabian versus the Best Friends.
I thought it was
really fun.
I thought it was fine. The Christian Cage, that was a really good match. I thought the arcade thing, that just beating each other up, it was fine. It wasn't anywhere near the match that those guys had with Santana and Ortiz. I thought it was a good match. I didn't think it was anything to write home about or even really highlight. I think the most interesting thing they had was with Callis talking to Matt Jackson and trying to bring that fire out in him. I thought that was good. The Phoenix match was fun. And the Christian Cage match, a very good appearance, man. He hasn't wrestled in a year, so he did a really, really good job. Frankie made him look like $1 million, so really, really solid stuff there. The one thing that I wanted to talk about is the Andrade thing, and I know we're saving that, and wanted to go an hour, and Corey loves to take going long here talking about the Hurt Business for 10 minutes, but Andrade came on was on this week with Lucha Libre Online, I believe, and had an interview, said a bunch of stuff. So I'm paraphrasing. I'm not quoting him at all, but there's stuff with Charlotte. Women are jealous of Charlotte. Sounds like there's been some heat on her. WWE, I guess, thought she was pregnant, which is kind of a salacious thing. Andrade said he was making $3 million a year and said, no, I wasn't making that. So Andrade really kind of stuck his foot in his mouth, and Andrade did get his release too, which we didn't talk about. Really, one of the bigger news stories of the week. So Andrade got released. So I just don't know what to make of all of this. I guess the one thing I will say, I think Charlotte got some type of acting role recently. Are we seeing the beginning of the end of Charlotte Flair being a full-time performer in the WWE.
Uh,
I mean, for her fiance to put this stuff out, where he said some pretty salacious stuff about her and the company and things like that. He really put her business out there. So again, is this possibly the beginning? Because she can get heat backstage. So anyway, is this the beginning of the end of her with the WWE as a full-time performer? And I'm not saying the end, the beginning of the end. Like maybe after this contract, maybe she'll be doing more acting.
it's interesting. I mean, usually most female performers have, the 5 to, like 7 year run in the company and then they go. And, that was the way it used to be, like, like the Beth Phoenix of the world or the Trish. And now, they might have a longer run. It's interesting that, a lot of this stuff came out. He did get his release, and stuff that he said about Charlotte could lead to a wait for an exit for her. I don't know if, she will be gone. I mean, she does have the family legacy with Rick. I don't see her leaving anytime soon. I mean, she seems to have a good spot in the company.
Yeah. I mean, she has a great spot in the company. I guess does this get back, and does this hurt her at all with the WWE? And then where the hell does Andrade go? I mean, there's a lot that Corey loves saving the stuff to the end. Where does Andrade go? Does he go to New Japan? Does he go to Ring of Honor? Does he go to AEW? I mean, there's a lot of different places he can go. Maybe let's save that one for next week. Let's save where we think Andrade will go for next week, because we're already way over. But as far as Charlotte goes, I think she'll be there, but I could see, let's say she's got 2 years on her contract. I could see her eventually, kind of maybe becoming more of a part-timer. One of the things that some women have talked about, some women's wrestlers have talked about, is you don't see women's wrestlers wrestling until 50, right? Their careers are pretty short. I mean, the 4 horsewomen, you have Becky Lynch, who's, who just had a child. You have Sasha and Bailey, who I think might be a little bit younger than them, but they might want to start families soon. So, this stuff is gonna kind of come full circle, and then, these women kind of transitioning to more acting roles possibly. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens with Charlotte if she just randomly appears on WrestleMania. We will see, but we are part of the great Life Group podcast. Very excited and happy to be a part of that. Mondays, we've got Dong City with Henry and Vince. Obviously, baseball started opening day. Well, it's starting in about an hour. So opening day. Oh, shoot, Corey, I got to set my lineups. So opening day today. Tuesday, we've got The Audible with Matt and Randy. A lot going on with football. Deshaun Watson has 18 million massage therapists, apparently. Thursday, you've got us, Worked Shoot Wrestling Podcast. Friday, we've got The Step Back with Jacob and Leon. And Sunday, we've got Total Bases with Felipe and Sean, more of a fantasy podcast, so a fantasy baseball podcast. So, and we are everywhere. You just type in Work Shoot Wrestling Podcast on Google and you will find us. We are in iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Just type in Work Shoot Wrestling Podcast and you will find us. We are on Instagram and we are on Twitter at Worked Shoot Pod.
And I believe there's another podcast that every once in a while Jason is nice enough to be on, especially when we talk about, a show like Insecure. But Jay, do you remember what that one's called?
I don't get invited enough. You don't know Jackie Andy, Jackie Rachel, Jackie Corey, the comedy podcast for the ages.
Not Jackie Corey. That's fine. This past week, we spoke about tipping, especially when it comes to Uber. Jay, when you go and use Uber or, other type of services like that, do you tip, or what's your theory when it comes to tipping? Do you think it's a little bit outdated? Do you think
a couple of things. I wish you would have invited me. This would have been a good episode. You know one of the number one cities in the United States that tips?
What is that?
Rochester, New York. One of the best tipping cities in the United States. Yeah, it's funny. Now, is it for me to do a pickup order, or for me when I get in an Uber and go somewhere? What do you mean by that?
Well, if you listen to the episode, you'll see that I don't tip when it comes to Uber. So I think they gouge you with up pricing and stuff like that.
Corey, the money goes to the person. Like the reason why you tip is so the money goes to like that person who's grinding. You absolutely should tip them. You're tipping the person. You're not tipping the service. You're giving the money that is out there. You're mostly giving to Uber, the company. You're not giving it to the person. That's why you should tip the person. Oh my God. You don't tip your Uber driver? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, well,
Now
Uber
I understand the not tipping when you go to pick food up or when you get a food to go. That I don't tip. I don't tip when you get food to go. I don't know. A couple of years ago, I don't know if you guys talked about on the podcast. There was a big thing with Drew Brees because he picked food up, and the food was like $2 quadrillion, and he picked it up the food, and he didn't leave a tip, and people were all mad at him about it. You don't have to tip when you're picking food up, but when you get in an Uber, and you have to tip, Corey. These Uber drivers don't make a ton of money. Like you're paying for you got to tip these Uber drivers.
But when they're charging you double what a normal,
they are not charging. That's Uber that's charging. That's the company.
That's their fault.
The driver's not charging you. You got to pay. Oh my God, Corey. Yeah. Oh yeah. You got to tip your Uber driver.
Jackie Endy from the great You Don't Know Jackie podcast is enjoying this tremendously in the chat right now.
Oh my! You don't tip your Uber driver? Do you tip them when you get delivery, if you get food delivered?
Absolutely, of course.
Then what's the difference?
They're not upcharging you double the price that you would get from a normal.
They are upcharging you. There's always a delivery fee when you do Uber Eats. There's always that.
Like, I never get Uber Eats. I don't do Uber Eats. I get like a normal, normal place from like a Chinese restaurant. I just have a normal place. I give them a good, like 30% tip and stuff. I do.
So you've never done Uber Eats or Grubhub?
No.
Okay. All right. I still think.
I mean, if I did Grubhub, I would do it. There's a difference there.
What's the difference?
I've never done Grubhub, so I can't judge on that. But
but you are saying you would definitely tip if someone delivers the food, 100%.
Yes.
Even if it's Uber Eats.
Sure.
But cab ride, no, because that driver is making too much money, even though he's not making the money and Uber's making all the money. Your logic is absurd.
Oh, and just to make it feel better, the company's actually paying for the Uber, but they won't pay for the tip.
I have no words. I'm actually legit disappointed in you. I'm legit disappointed because those people work really hard, man, and a lot of those people are not. A lot of those people are not. They're grinding. They don't have a lot of money. They're just trying to, support their families and stuff. I don't know. I think that's kind of shitty, actually. But all right. On that note, we got to get out of here. I got too much stuff to do. This show.
All right, just so very, very quickly, we'll get more into this, I guess, next week. Andrade said a lot of stuff, like you just said, in regards to the fact that the reason why he went to NXT, he wasn't even initially supposed to. He went to NXT to defeat Drew McIntyre because they did not believe that Adam Cole was tall enough to be believable to beat Drew McIntyre. He mentioned a lot of other stuff in his exit interview with in regards to who he thought was good and other guys he felt who should have got a chance. So it'll be interesting to see where he ends up. But last thing I wanted to mention, I didn't get a chance to see the match. I heard it was good, and hopefully people do get a chance to check it over the next couple of weeks. ROH. If you don't get a chance to see the match itself, you should definitely see the promo leading up. And Jay, if you haven't seen it, I would say go out of your way. It's about a minute and a half. The promo leading up to the match with Jay Briscoe and EC3. The promo that was cut by Jay Briscoe on the lead up to that match is one of the best promos of the year. I would just let people know that. But Jay, if there's anything else you want to bring up this week, the floor is yours. Or as always, the final word is yours.
I think we're done here. See ya.
Enjoy the baseball season, guys.